Hello, and thank you for joining us for this webinar Wednesday. My name is Sharon, and I'm with SIPA, your statewide Colorado government authority, helping you get more information and services online. In today's webinar, Noah Kaplan, SIPA's GovGrants Director, will be sharing more about our new SIPA GovGrants program and answering your questions to write an amazing application. Before we get started, please go ahead and turn on captioning if you need or desire, and note that during this webinar, you are muted. If you have any questions or would like to communicate with us at any point during the webinar, please do use the chat box or the Q&A feature. We will unmute everyone at the end for any remaining questions and answer them all. We also have some poll questions for you to answer during the presentation and a post-webinar survey, and deeply appreciate your feedback. Please join me in welcoming Noah. We appreciate his time and look forward to what he has to share with us. Also on the call is SIPA's Sales and Marketing Director, Beth Justice, and Operations Sales Manager, Heather Nelson, if you have any questions for us. Thank you all again for joining us today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Noah.
Thank you, Sharon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this intro to SIPA GovGrants. As Sharon said, my name is Noah Kaplan, and I am the director of the SIPA GovGrants program, which is our newest and largest grant program supporting digital government services in Colorado. So very excited to be here and to have the opportunity to present this to you and to answer any questions you have, so that we can hopefully get a lot of great applications for the first cycle of this program. So Sharon just put up our first poll question. So I'll give everybody a moment to answer that. We want to know what kind of government you're coming from. So SIPA is a government that serves governments, and we love to know who it is that we are presenting to. So please take a moment to answer that before we move on.
And we're especially looking forward to everyone applying for these GovGrants because it's open to all.
Spoiler alert, Sharon. That's part of my presentation. All right, a really great mix today. Really glad to see all of you here. Yeah, let's move on. Okay, so what is SIPA GovGrants? So we already kind of, gave the headline. So giving grants has been part of SIPA's mission, nearly from SIPA's creation 20 years ago. We've had the microgrants program and a number of other grant initiatives over time. But SIPA GovGrants is really something new for us. So this is our largest statewide grant program in SIPA's history. So unlike our previous Innovation Fund grant program, the SIPA GovGrants is open to all government entities that are eligible to do business with SIPA, which is why we're so excited to see such a great mix of all of you here today. And ultimately, the goal of this program is to support SIPA's mission. We want to fund innovation in government technology. We want to deliver government service to the people of Colorado in innovative, effective ways that make it easier for people to access the government services that they want and need from all levels of government in Colorado. And so we're really excited to have this new program to really push that forward and really give all of you the opportunity to stretch in the way that you use technology and to really try to find innovative solutions that might be out of reach from sort of the normal day-to-day budget and expenditures of your agencies and organizations. We really think this is going to be a great opportunity to move civic technology forward in Colorado. So I mentioned that giving grants has been part of SIPA's mission from the beginning. Right now, we actually have these three grant programs that are all available right now. And so I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about the difference between GovGrants and the other programs. And we're interested in knowing in this poll question, what is your experience with SIPA's grant programs? So I mentioned the microgrants program before. So microgrants, like GovGrants, open to all Colorado governments. But it's for smaller projects. So microgrants this year goes up to $10,000, which is a little higher than it has been in the past, and we're excited to be able to raise that. Applications for microgrants are open now and close May 31st. So that's coming up, in just a couple of weeks. So if you have small projects that would, fit with SIPA's mission, please get an application in for the microgrants program. The accessibility grants program is a little bit different because it's non-monetary. So what we're able to give through that program are licenses to the Alliant Common Look suite of software, which helps you to generate WCAG compliant PDFs and other documents for your website. So we know this is a big need. We know accessibility is something that everybody is concerned about right now. And so we're excited to be able to distribute those licenses at no cost as a grant program. And then SIPA GovGrants is what we're going to be talking about today. It's for these larger government technology projects, starting at $25,000 and going up from there. And because these projects are larger and more complicated, we're giving you more time to apply, so applications won't close until June 21st. So really exciting results on this poll. It's great to see that 70% of the respondents have never applied for a SIPA grant before. So that is, really great that you guys are seeing this opportunity and engaging with us today. We're really happy that you're here. And to all of our repeat grant recipients as well. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking for in the GovGrants program. So I mentioned before that the GovGrants program is really designed to support and align with SIPA's mission. And our mission is to provide efficient and effective services for the residents of Colorado through the use of modern business practices and innovative technology solutions. And so I've highlighted sort of the key phrases there that we're looking for with this program. So we want to see applications and proposals that are delivering efficient and effective services to residents using modern business practices and innovative technology solutions. So the way that we've kind of broken that out into how we want you to present your proposal are these 4 bullets here. So the first thing is a clear theory of change. And what a theory of change means is if we do this, then this will result. It's really just that sort of simple if-then statement. And we want you to be able to say, this is a problem that we identify with the way that our residents or our constituents interact with us. And we believe that if we make this change, it will have this positive result. And sort of explain the logic behind how that will happen. That's what we're looking for. So we're not looking for things that are sort of back office focused or internally focused. We really do want to see that theory of change for how it's going to impact residents. The next thing is innovation. We want to see, like I mentioned before, we're really excited about the opportunity here to give these grants to allow you to try things, to allow you to innovate, to experiment, to use technology in different and new ways that maybe you wouldn't be able to, sort of with a typical government budget limitations. And so we really want to see some innovation. We want to see people coming in with ideas of things that you want to do, but are otherwise out of reach. Implementation capacity. So what this means is basically we want to know that if we give you this money, that it's going to be used for an effective implementation. So we know that we're looking at governments of all sizes and all different types. We saw that at the beginning with the breakdown of where all of you are coming from. And we know that even within those categories, like local government is everything from the town of Keystone to the city and county of Denver. And so we recognize that all of our recipients are going to be different. But what we're looking for is that whatever your proposal is you bring to the table, that you also have a plan for how you would go about implementing that proposal. So if you're the city and county of Denver, then the resources you have available are probably going to be greater. And so you can come with a proposal that is bigger, bolder, grander. And if you're a smaller municipality, or you're a special district, or you're K-12 and you're more limited in that implementation capacity, then we just want to make sure that what you're proposing aligns with your organization's capacity. And that includes if you're working with a vendor, what capacity do they bring to the table? How does it align with your existing technologies, things like that. And then finally, potential for impact. So again, we understand that governments are different sizes, and we're not just counting heads on how many people it's going to impact. We just want to make sure that impact is proportional to the investment. So again, if you're a smaller government, then necessarily we understand that the impact that you're able to have just on number of people is necessarily smaller. But that's okay as long as it's proportional to the project that you're bringing forward. So that's really what we mean by potential for impact, is not just the absolute size, but really just how does it relate to the size of the project and what you're trying to do. Let's move on. So Sharon spoiled this one for me, but that's okay. No, we're super excited that this SIPA GovGrants program is open to all governments across the state of Colorado. Anyone who is eligible to do business with SIPA can also apply for and receive a GovGrant. So that includes state agencies, local governments, so that's cities, counties, towns, special districts, K-12, and public colleges. Requirement besides being one of those entities is that you have what we call a SIPA eligible government agreement, which is basically just a sort of overarching terms for agreeing to be able to do business with SIPA. We have, I believe the number I saw most recently was over 900 of those active. So most likely your organization already has one. But if you don't, and you still want to apply for this grant, we can help you with that. Or if you're not sure, we can confirm for you what the status of your EGE is. Just reach out to us and ask. And there's information on our website about EGE agreements. And there's a link from the GovGrants page to the EGE agreements page, so you can get the information you need to sort that out. So hopefully you already have one. But if not, it's easy for us to check, or easy for us to do that for you. And if you only want to apply for grants and you're not interested in doing other business with SIPA, that's fine. The EGE agreement doesn't obligate you to buy any goods or services using SIPA's procurement path. But we do want to have that in place in order to receive a grant as well. So just know that you can do the EGE agreement, apply for, receive a grant. There's no obligation on sort of the other parts of SIPA's operations to buy anything. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what a SIPA GovGrant award is going to look like. So we're starting at a floor of $25,000. So we recognize that that leaves a little bit of a gap between the microgrants program and this program, and there's going to be some, I'm sure, very worthy projects that fall through the gap. But ultimately, if your project is smaller than 25,000, apply for the microgrant. Try to get that 10,000, and hopefully you can move forward with what you're trying to do. But for this program, we're starting at 25,000, and we haven't set any maximum. Not sure if it's going to stay that way permanently, but for this first cycle, we really want to see what comes in and get a sense of what size projects people are looking to do. So we thought it was best to just leave that open-ended. You should understand that obviously the larger the project, we talked about sort of proportionality of the impact. We're going to look for a stronger justification, higher likelihood of success if it's a very large request. For smaller requests, like I said, we're very open to projects that have an element of experimentation and an element of doing a discovery phase, or doing a prototype or a proof of concept. We're definitely open to those kinds of early stage projects. at the smaller end of the scale. And then as you're asking for more, we're gonna hopefully have greater evidence that it's definitely something that can be implemented and be successful and has that clear theory of change that we talked about. And also you should feel free to sort of phase your project and ask for only part of the funding. So if you think that asking for an entire project amount would be too much out of the gate, we're definitely open to saying, here's what phase 1 of our project looks like, and we'd like to move forward with that now, and then we'll decide if we want to move forward with phase 2 in the future. You can do that, come back in the future for another round if phase 1 is successful, that kind of thing. We mentioned here that the grants can be either monetary or in kind, and that will be ultimately up to the applicant, up to the recipient, what type of grant you want. And what we mean there is we can give you the money for you to run your project and do your procurement and all of that. Or if you need SIPA to engage with the goods or services that you need in order to go forward, we can do that and provide those as an in-kind grant as well. It's up to you. It really just has to do with what sort of your preferences on how to receive the grant. We're anticipating that most of the grants will be for a 1-year award period, but we're open to looking at each grant agreement with each recipient and modifying that. So if you have a very short project and you think you're going to be able to implement it in a couple of months, and we don't need a 1-year grant period, we could do that. If you have a lot of sort of preliminary activity that needs to happen and you think that 1 year is not going to be enough, we can look at extending that as well. So 1 year is just kind of our baseline. We're not necessarily saying all of the agreements will be 1 year. So how are we going to make decisions? So the plan for these grants is we will receive the applications, and SIPA staff, starting with myself, but also probably others within SIPA staff, will do an initial review of the applications and just kind of provide a general overview, maybe write a short memo kind of summarizing things, because the decisions ultimately are going to be made by this committee that's made up of our SIPA board of directors members. So you can see the 5 people here who are currently part of our committee. We tried to get a cross-section of the members of our board. So Ernesto Chavez comes from City of Lafayette. We definitely wanted to make sure we had a local government representative on this committee. David Edinger from OIT, Jason Harris from Judicial, so that's state, but non-executive, non-OIT. Jesse Marks from the governor's office, and Sam Tausig, who's a private sector member of our board. So we really do have a good array of people on this committee. So this committee is ultimately going to be the ones who are sort of scoring the proposals and making the initial recommendations. And then those recommendations will go to our full board for approval. And so it will, again, be these members as well as the other members of our board. But these are the ones that will actually be reviewing the applications, providing the scoring, and making those recommendations to our overall board. Okay, the timeline here. So the application for SIPA GovGrants opened on April 15th. Today, May 15th, is our pre-application conference webinar. So this is, the opportunity for you to ask questions and get more information. And I mentioned earlier that applications will be open till June 21st. We didn't want to go right up to the end of the state fiscal year at June 30th. We know that that's a busy time for people, but we also wanted to make sure that, everybody kind of had the opportunity to take a look at what their sort of budgets and priorities for next year looked like, and to have time to generate an application in the month of June if needed. And we know that this being a new program, it's going to take us some time to get the word out and make sure people understand what they need to do in order to apply. So June 21st is that application deadline. Over the months of July and August, I will go through that review process that I described, SIPA staff looking at them, and through that committee, ultimately arriving at those award recommendations. And then we're hoping that at the September board meeting, so that would be the first week of September, is when the full SIPA board would approve the slate of recommendations and actually formalize the awards that we could then notify the applicants about. And then once those awards are out there, we're expecting that most of the reporting will be on a quarterly basis. So we'll be looking for both monetary and, sort of progress reports on a quarterly basis. But again, that'll be kind of tailored to each recipient based on what the application looks like. Okay. And with that, that's the end of the formal presentation. It was intentionally less than the full hour because I am sure that there's a lot of questions. We again recognize that this is a new program. Exciting to see that there were so many of you that had not applied for a grant from SIPA before. Really excited to see all of you here. And so want to give everybody the opportunity to ask questions. Sharon, is there anything from the chat or the Q&A that we should start with?
Yes. So Jennifer had a question asking, will you consider proposals that impact residents indirectly? For example, I manage the service desk, desktop support, PC replacement, and asset management, and all of my teams support the employees of the government agency that I'm with. The more quickly we serve them, the more effective they can be.
I think the answer to that is it depends. Ultimately, like I said, the decisions on what gets awarded are going to be made by that committee. So I can't necessarily speak to what they would or wouldn't award. What I can say is that the the amount of impact on residents is going to be one of those scoring factors. So I would anticipate that a project like that, so if you're, like you said, applying for PC replacement, for your internal staff, is probably going to score lower on criteria like innovation and resident impact. So it's not that we wouldn't consider it, but I would say that it would be less likely to be awarded than something that has that direct connection to the way that residents interact with government.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we have, let's see, can funds be requested for contractors to implement the solution if we don't have the resources to do so? And I answered yes, because I'm pretty sure that's what we do.
Yes, that is correct.
Rick asked, this grant will be awarded for several months, but Keystone must start our project now and incur expenses before any grant might be hopefully awarded. So would it be likely that we could do a reimbursement? Is that acceptable?
The answer to that is no. You should not apply for a grant for something that is already moving forward. And basically the reason for that is, comes down to the idea that what we're trying to do with this program is to allow you to fund projects that you don't otherwise have the funds to do. We're, like I said, we're trying to encourage innovation, experimentation, and advancements in civic technology. And so if you are going to move forward with the project during the application period, and that project is happening, whether or not you get the grant, then that's probably not the best fit for the GovGrants program. We really want, those projects that are the kinds of things that don't have, that other funding source already in place, and that the grant is really the thing that makes it happen. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do with this program. So if you have something that is already funded, we're not looking to just sort of offset those existing expenses prior to the grant being received.
Thank you. Julie asked, is there a SIPA email list for info and notifications that I could be added to? And that is a fabulous question.
The answer to that is there are multiple. So on the SIPA GovGrants page, which you can see the address for here on this screen, sipa.colorado.gov/govgrants. There is an email sign up there. I will say I am collecting those emails. To date, I have not sent any emails to that list, but we are generating that interest list specifically for GovGrants. And then, you guys are all here today, so you probably already received the general SIPA newsletters and other emails. But if not, obviously, the SIPA website would be the place to go to get signed up for other general purpose notifications from SIPA. But we are generating that GovGrants specific interest list, which we will probably start sending emails to within the next couple of weeks as we get closer to that application deadline. So feel free to check out the GovGrants page, and from there you can sign up for the emails specifically to show interest in the GovGrants program.
Dina asked, can we apply for a grant for only hardware? For example, tablets for food inspectors to perform facility inspections.
Absolutely. Yeah, hardware is definitely eligible. And I think the particular purpose that you described there sounds like a pretty good fit for the program. I would say that, if you're applying for hardware only, please make sure to let us know, what the underlying software is, and to make sure that, there's not any, that as far as the implementation of the hardware, that everything, will be able to work smoothly for that purpose. But yeah, the only hardware, only software, only, professional services, or a mix of all three, any of those are potentially eligible for funding through this program.
Oh, one more in the chat, and then I'm going to go to who has their hand raised. So Allison asked, if we are looking for grants to support education/outreach efforts, web accessibility beyond PDF remediation, and computer IT security, would you suggest a microgrant SIP application versus the GovGrants?
I see it.
I would say most likely the things that you described there would be a better fit for microgrants, because they're more sort of internal and compliance focused and less resident impact. That being said, cybersecurity is a big topic. And so the specifics of what you're proposing, are gonna have a big impact on how well it fits. So I don't want to say that any of those things are things that we wouldn't fund with this program. Just that the criteria that I described earlier in the presentation are kind of what we're going to be scoring on. And so, like I said before, things that have that more indirect resident impact are necessarily going to score lower on some of those criteria. So it's, again, not that they wouldn't be awarded, just that they might be less likely to be awarded. You can also apply for both programs. If you have an application that fits that 10,000 or under piece, and you apply for the microgrants, and you have, another piece or an overlapping piece that, fits with the GovGrants program, you're welcome to apply for both. We definitely will talk to each other and we'll look at the applications that are coming in the two programs. So feel free to apply for both if you're not sure.
Absolutely. All right, Jenny, you had a question. Go ahead and fire away. I hope I unmuted you properly. Are you still there, Jenny? All right, we will go over to the Q&A then. If you catch back up with us, Jenny, let us know. We've got a question in the Q&A asking, you shared that it's a $25,000 minimum. Is there a maximum dollar amount?
The answer to that is no. So I mentioned earlier in the presentation that this being the first cycle of SIPA GovGrants, we decided to leave that upper end open-ended with the idea that we don't know what great ideas might be out there, and we didn't want to set sort of an artificial limit. So there's a couple of, I guess, caveats or additional things that grow out of that. So one is, obviously, the overall pool of funding that we have available for this program is not unlimited. We're not sort of naming a specific number that is available for this first round. I can say that it is substantial. But if somebody came in and asked for a grant that was 50% of our entire pool, which would be in the millions of dollars, that would be less likely to be funded, just because it would limit the sort of the breadth that we would be able to award across the entire portfolio. And then the other thing that I mentioned earlier, just to reiterate, is that the larger the grant gets, the stronger that sort of justification and evidence base is going to need to be. So we want to know, if we're going to give a very large grant, that it really checks all those boxes, and specifically things like implementation capacity. We know that, historically, government technology projects have a history of, taking longer than expected, costing more than expected, and sometimes delivering less at the end of the day for the residents than we hope. And so the larger the proposal, the stronger case we're going to want to see that, it's a slam dunk for the benefit that is ultimately going to be delivered to the people of Colorado. So I would just say there's no maximum, but keep in mind, the larger your request, the stronger the case you're going to need to make. That's, pretty much what it comes down to.
All right, thank you. Paul asked, I work in a K-12 public school district. Regarding measurement of impact, would you be looking for more quantitative results, or would qualitative data, say student, teacher, parent feedback, be considered in partnership with said quantitative results and feedback?
That's a great question. And I will say, let me say a couple of things there. So first of all, we are in this first cycle, similar to some of the other things that I've talked about. We're really trying to be flexible and to leave things as sort of open-ended as possible, so that we can learn from what applications come in and what's going to make sense for each applicant. And then we can learn from this first cycle and adjust as we go forward and grow this program. So we don't have, we also understand that with different types of governments, different sizes of governments, that we can't sort of give you a metric that every project has to be measured on, because they're all going to be so different. So I think, when you talk about something like feedback surveys, for example, those aren't necessarily qualitative, right? You can generate quantitative data from feedback surveys. SIPA does this for our sort of customer satisfaction and other things. We use survey tools to generate quantitative data. So what we would want to see is sort of, what's the baseline and how did it change? So if that, there's a feedback that you're receiving on a certain technology tool that you're using right now, or a certain process that hasn't really been implemented with technology and it's not working very well, and you have kind of a baseline to compare to, then you could definitely use student, teacher, parent feedback surveys to then measure against how that baseline changes when the proposed solution gets implemented. So I would say, we're ultimately going to want something that is measurable. But I think, we're very open to thinking broadly about what can be measured and how it can be measured. And so the important thing is just that we'll have some kind of baseline of here's where we are, we implement the solution, and then we can measure those impacts afterwards, is really what we're hoping to do. So there are a lot of different ways to do that, and we're definitely open to those conversations with you.
Kind of going along with that, Hannah asked, based on what you just said about implementation capacity, would the grant committee consider funding contractor support for implementation as part of the proposal?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we know that, most technology solutions are not going to be, 100% in-house. That's kind of, government is not typically in the business of, building our own technology solutions, all the way through the stack. So we fully expect that contractor engagement is going to be part of what we're awarding. I mentioned software, hardware, professional services, which includes, implementation support, could also include other types of, consulting around discovery phases, user research. There's lots of different things that, you could potentially be engaging contractors to do for these kinds of projects. And yeah, we're fully expecting that that is going to be a significant portion of what these grants are funding.
Excellent. Lori asked, we have identified a need for a project that would greatly impact our residents and have already had several vendor demos to get an idea of costs, but we have not yet identified a funding source. Is it okay to apply, or would it be considered as a project we've already started?
No, that's totally fine. So one of the questions that we ask in the application materials is just kind of where you are in any procurement process. So that could mean that you've already selected a vendor. Again, we don't want you to be asking us to reimburse for projects that have already started and you're asking to pay back money that's already gone out the door. But if you've already done a procurement, and even if you've selected the vendor, bring that information as part of your application, and that's what we would like to consider. If you have an idea or a target, but you haven't done that procurement activity yet, that's fine too, and we're open to that. But we fully understand that in order to determine how much to ask for, you have to have done some kind of market research to get a sense of what those costs are going to be. And so that would be totally in line with what we would expect to see. And like I said, we are open to projects that are kind of at any stage of the procurement processes. But what we're not going to do is reimburse you for money that you've already spent. So we would be looking to fund the forward-looking portion of any project, not the whatever costs have already gone into those early stages.
Excellent. Andrew asked, regarding newly established compliance standards for public entity digital accessibility standards, would you be able to outline what a grant may cover for costs incurred to meet these new requirements?
I mean, I can't really, because again, it's such a broad category of things. I think, the important thing to keep in mind is if what you're trying to fund is just bringing your current, website and other technologies up to compliance with those regulations, then you're probably not going to score as well on the sort of innovation criteria in applying for a grant, because you're ultimately not changing the the delivery of government services to the residents. Obviously there is a an impact in the sense of broadening the range of people that can interact with the government services online. And so I don't want to close the door to that being something that this program would fund. I don't think that it's out of the question, but I do think if you're ultimately just saying it's going to cost us X dollars to come into compliance with the law, that's not probably going to score as well on the innovation component. So what we would, if you come with a proposal that, is bringing you into compliance with the law, by implementing an innovative technology solution that, provides better digital government service for your residents, then great. That's definitely a great point in your favor. But I would say, if it's just purely compliance focused, that's probably not going to be as good a match for the scoring criteria that we're looking for here.
And those will be perfect for the microgrants because we've awarded those before, Andrew. Like if you want to say have someone do an audit of your website, you could cover the cost of that. Or if you want to hire someone to fix the issues that are found in that audit, or to fix your PDFs, or to get the licenses that we, if we run out of those licenses before you can apply, if you haven't already, you can get that licensed software to take care of those PDFs and those Word documents and PowerPoints. So those kinds of things are perfect for that micro grant because they usually fit underneath that $10,000 cost. And we typically cover, say, the setup fees, not the cost of the renewal fees, but that setup fee can be a big hurdle for you. So we'd love to take care of that. If it's something like you want to be able to live stream your meetings now so that people who aren't as mobile and can't get to the meeting places, but they can listen online to Zoom, you can get Zoom set up, or you can buy like an Owl, which is this cute little piece of hardware that will basically be your microphone and your camera for the room while you're having that meeting. Those sorts of things are perfect. And let's see, moving on to, if we're looking for a grant to rebuild our town website to be ADA compliant in hosting fees, yes, the micro grant will definitely cover that. Same kind of thing. Does the awarded money have to be used within a certain amount of time? And what if all the awarded money is not used? What happens to the excess?
So I'll answer the first question, which is that would fall into the categories of things that we're considering to handle, on a case-by-case basis as far as what timeline it has to be awarded on or it has to be spent on. The short answer is there's not any specific timeline out of the gate. We will put, sort of what the expected expenditure schedule looks like in the grant agreement based on what the application, the proposal includes. And then the other piece is, unlike the microgrants program where you receive the award and, SIPA cuts you a check for that amount. The funding in this program is going to be, more phased because we're looking at larger dollar amounts and more complicated projects. And so our goal is going to be to, avoid situations where, money is going out the door from SIPA and then has to come back because it's unspent. So we really will, be structuring those payments so that we're paying you for the things, sort of more as those expenses are coming up. So we shouldn't run into a situation of excess funding. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're able to complete your project for less than your awarded amount, fantastic. We're definitely would love to have that happen. But like I said, we've seen in the past occasionally that we would give a grant and then the project that was awarded just didn't move forward, and so all the money needed to come back at a year later or something along those lines, and we don't want to run into that situation again. So we will be sort of structuring the grant agreements and the payments so that we don't have that sort of excess funding sitting out there as we have in the past.
All right. Dina asked, I'm a little confused and probably because I came in late. My apologies. If the microgrant maximum is 10,000 and the minimum for the gov grant is 25,000, what if the amount requested falls in between those two?
So you're right, Dina. I did address this earlier. Shame on you. No, I'm kidding. There is a gap. We had originally, we had discussed internally within SIPA whether we wanted to essentially have the two programs, come to the same line, so there was no gap. And the decision was made that, it wasn't really appropriate for the microgrants program to go over 10,000, and projects smaller than 25,000 weren't really going to be a good fit for the GovGrants program. So there is, that gap. So what I would say is if you have a project that falls into that gap, look at the microgrants program to get the 10,000, because it doesn't have to be 100% of your project funding. The microgrants program definitely can fund 10,000 of a $15,000 or $20,000 project. So definitely look at the microgrants program. Or the other piece that we talked a little bit about is figure out kind of how you can take a project and apply for both. And try to get, obviously, if it's a $20,000 project, you don't have a piece for GovGrants, but there, depending on how you break up your projects, there might be ways to apply for both as well. So there is a gap. We recognize that. We recognize that some projects will fall through that crack as far as being able to get fully funded, but those projects are still eligible for a microgrant.
All right, I think. Do you see microgrant gap changing as accessibility requirements do cost a significant amount of money? Samantha asked that to us. The microgrant we just raised this year from 6,500 to 10,000. It's probably not going to change next year so much, but who knows? Things can always change. And the kind of the goal with those is to get you started if needed. If you've got a lot of PDFs that need to be remediated, go ahead and apply for that software license that we have available right now. It's a free 1-year license. You can download that and get going to remediate that yourself, or you can get a quote from one of our suppliers, Alliant, to see what it would cost to do a bulk remediation and get a big chunk of them taken care of for you and apply for that. Because with the accessibility, the rules are that they understand you're not going to be able to do everything all at once. We none of us have an unlimited amount of money, but as long as you're making progress towards that, then you are demonstrating that good faith effort of reaching compliance, and that covers you. So you can always come back and apply for another microgrant again next year, because these are the kinds of things that we love to help with.
I want to just real quickly share one more thing that I think will be useful for a lot of people, which is that yesterday we added a new resource to the GovGrants page. So I'm going to share that now. Okay, so this is the GovGrants page on SIPA's website. I made this graphic myself. I'm very proud of it. It has a lot of the information that was presented today. It has our detailed program manual if you want to dive in more deeply to the program requirements. Obviously, the application itself is here. Yesterday, we added this SIPA GovGrants applicant worksheet. And the reason we did that was the original application just sort of asked for you to submit documents. And our goal was that that would give you the ability to take whatever kind of project documentation you already had and submit for the grant without having to sort of recreate a very specific format for your application. So we wanted it to be as easy as possible for you. But then we also recognize that that might also leave some people in sort of a position of not being sure what to submit or how to put it together. And so this worksheet is completely optional. If you have project documentation, budget, things like that, that are sort of already, part of your internal project management approach, please submit those. We don't want you to go and create a bunch of new stuff for us. But if you don't, and you want to apply in more of a question and answer format that gives you that structure to make sure you've kind of checked all the boxes, that's what this worksheet is for. So what it will do is you'll download it as a Word document, and then you can go through and answer a series of questions. And if you complete these questions, then you've generated a complete GovGrants application. So you can either do it in the document itself, or you can use this worksheet to sort of cross-reference with what you have and make sure you've kind of checked all the boxes. We just wanted to make it a little bit easier for you. So again, it's optional. You don't have to use this worksheet, but if you're not sure how to generate a GovGrants application, definitely take a look at it and use it. But like I said, if you already have other documentation, don't feel like you need to force it into this format. It's completely optional. It's up to you. So just wanted to make sure and point that out because it is new. We just posted that yesterday, and we're hoping that it'll make it a little easier for folks that may be used to that sort of more question and answer format. The GovGrants website also includes an FAQ. The application itself, which is, like I said, mostly just some identifying questions and then document submission. And then the template grant agreement. So if you want to see kind of what the grant agreement will look like where you awarded, that is available on the website as well. So please go check out those resources and make sure to reach out if you have any questions or concerns about any of that.
All right, we got another question. Oh, where did it go? I had to move my cursor, of course, and that messed me all up. Can the grant funds be used to fund a term limited position in order to have the proper resources to complete the project?
Yeah, so the FAQ talks a little bit about this. We don't want to fund staff salaries and overhead for existing operations. It falls in line with what we were talking about before about, we don't want to sort of reimburse for expenses that are already incurred by your organization. But a term limited position that is specific to implementing the project would be eligible. So, if you need to hire another project manager, the same types of things that you would engage with a consultant for, if you would rather do that with a term limited staff position, we're definitely open to funding that. We don't want to offset existing staff salaries, existing overhead and administration. But if it is project specific expenses, we're open to funding that, whether it's staff or professional services from a vendor. To us, those are really the same type of expense, for the same purpose. So we're open to that.
All right. The link for the worksheet is on that SIPA GovGrants page, Jennifer. You should be able to find it right there.
Yeah, so it's right at the top of the main GovGrants page. There's sort of an introduction, and then there's a link to the FAQ and the worksheet. So that will be available. And I see the question about contact info, so let me reshare the slide here. Sorry, now I've got multiple things running at full screen and I can't find anything.
And the main email for
There
the
we go.
GovGrants program is govgrants@cosipa.gov.
Yeah, so that govgrants@cosipa.gov goes to me. You're welcome to email me also at noah@cosipa.gov. Either of those will reach me with any questions. The website there is sipa.colorado.gov/govgrants for all that information that I showed you. The FAQ, the worksheet, the application is all available there. And we're available. I've had a couple of folks reach out to me wanting to just sort of schedule some time to talk one-on-one, and I'm open to that, and certainly available to do that. I do want to reiterate that ultimately I am not the decider, so I am the director of this program, but the scoring and the awards will be done by that committee of our board. So I can't answer questions like, would you award this specific project, or I don't know the answers to those, but I can give the same kind of advice I've been able to give on this webinar around what I think would fit well with those scoring criteria or not. But I can't give you a firm up and down on anything. But to the extent that you're wanting to apply and you have additional questions that are really sort of specific to you, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect.
And we've got one question Kat would like to ask in person. Go ahead, Kat.
Thank you so much. I am new to my role, wasn't really aware of SIPA this time last year. So the beginning of this year, with the July 1st deadline looming of HB 21-1110, we felt it was really important to start the process of doing an audit. And in my mind, the micro grant would be able to help offset some of those costs. So I just wanted to clarify, since we've already initiated the audit, are we not eligible for the micro grant this year?
If you've already paid for the audit, no, because we don't reimburse. But if you need to hire someone, say, to implement those fixes that what they find that needs to be changed and brought up to standard, you can absolutely apply to hire someone to do that for you. Or if you say need to get a different website because it's just going to be easier to start over, we can help with that too.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was working on the application today, so going in a different direction now.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Sharon, do you want to put the last poll question up now?
Oh, yes, I sure do. I almost forgot about that one. Thank you. Okay, there we go.
So the last question we have is, knowing what you know now, do you plan to apply? So specifically, we're looking for the GovGrants program here. Do you plan to apply for SIPA GovGrants?
I don't see the poll.
Oh, that's weird. We're getting some people answering.
Okay, then we're good.
Okay. All right, I'll give it 10 more seconds. Oh, I like these results.
All right, fantastic. So we've got 13 yeses, about a third of the respondents, and 20 that are thinking about it, which is more than half of the respondents. So that is fantastic. Over 90% at least considering it. Great news. So we really look forward to hearing from you. Like I said, please check out the program website, go through the manual, look at the worksheet. We're trying to put out as many resources as we can to help with the application process. And then, as I said, I'm available, as the director of this program. This is my job. So I am available to talk to you about any questions or concerns you have. Anything that can help you get from that I'm thinking about it to a yes, please reach out to me, and I want to have those conversations.
All right. Well, I think we've got them all. Like Noah said, if there's any other questions that come up, please do contact him. We would love to hear from you. Also, don't forget to go to our website. We've got a lot more information on there that we can hopefully help serve you with. We're going to be taking the summer off for doing webinars because, we're all out and about. We've got conferences, we've got summer school, we've got vacations, all that kind of thing. So we'll be back this fall with Pacific Point and OGX, and of course, our 12th annual user conference. So we hope you will join us for that. Registration is now open. You can go to our website to join us. It is totally free. We're going to be at Coors Field. We're going to have a great agenda. We'll be getting more of that information up here pretty soon. You can find our monthly newsletter. If you aren't already subscribed, that's how you can get a lot of good information and updates from us. So make sure you do that. And if you want to see this webinar again or share it with a colleague, we'll be getting that up on YouTube pretty soon so that you can get that out there. And don't forget to take our brief 3-question survey there at the end to help us make these all better for you as we move forward. Thank you again for joining us. We do appreciate your time very much, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.